This is Yardley, which is supposed to be a very good liberal arts school with its beautiful rural campus, which is total bull because you get ticks walking in the grass.
Yes, welcome indeed. Now that we know that everyone we see walking here probably has ticks, let's jump into 2019's A Rainy Day in New York. Spoiler alert, while I might be giving you my opinion on the film, that's no substitute for watching it for yourself. Links to the film are in the description. Next, we see Gatsby in class, and he tells us about how he's jumped from Ivy League to Ivy League. His mother thinks he isn't living up to his potential, and he made 20 grand playing poker the week before. He tells us about his girlfriend Ashley, and he knows that he's absolutely in love with her. When she comes up to him, she talks about how she has a big interview with a big film director, Roland. Gatsby's happy for her, and he begins to plan out everything for them to have a weekend in New York while she's helping Roland. Ashley tells him that they'll need a lot of money, and he tells her that he'll just use the money he won playing poker to fund the trip. Soon, they're on a Greyhound to New York, and Ashley's hoping that Gatsby can help her prepare for her meeting with Roland. You can see the difference in our star-crossed lovers here. She's so nervous about this big interview with a movie director, and Gatsby's just treating it like it's all normal happenstance. He couldn't look any more like old money if he tried. Once they arrive in New York, Ashley sees that Gatsby splurged for the penthouse of the hotel that overlooks Central Park. Once they arrive at Roland's hotel for her interview, Ashley heads back while Gatsby goes to visit his brother. Once she meets Roland, her nerves really kick in, as she stammers and blurts out personal information.
The worst, of course, is when I'm sexually conflicted. Then I'll hiccup indefinitely.
Okay, Ashley, TMI for sure. But an interesting tidbit of information that I've never heard anyone have. I now kind of want to see this hiccup fit. The more Roland and Ashley talk, Roland admits to her that he isn't happy with his newest film, and he's thinking of quitting. It's only after Ashley describes what kind of director he is that he invites her to view the film privately. Ashley decides that she'll change her lunch plans with Gatsby so that she can view the film with him. Meanwhile, Gatsby's roaming the streets of New York, and he runs into a guy he knew in high school named Trawler. Trawler catches him up on what he's missed out on with old classmates, and he eventually tells him about Josh, who's shooting a student film just around the corner. After they say goodbye, Gatsby goes to meet Ashley for their lunch, but she shows up to tell him that Roland has opened up to her. Ashley talks about how she can't miss out on what Roland is offering her, and Gatsby reluctantly heads out. He goes to check on Josh's project he heard about earlier, and he ends up getting pulled into being in the film. It's here that we meet Chan, an old classmate of Gatsby's that is acting in Josh's movie. It turns out that they're just going to have to kiss.
Kiss me so I can really feel it in my toes.
I used to kiss your older sister. Did she ever say anything about that or no?
This has to be one of the most awkward conversations I've ever witnessed. There's way more than just that, but I think you get the point. Come to think of it, almost every conversation so far has been some level of awkward. Well, this is a Woody Allen movie, so I shouldn't really be surprised. Chan tells him that this kiss has to be hot, and once Josh calls action, it turns out to be anything but hot. Gatsby mentions that he has a girlfriend from Arizona, and Chan makes fun of the idea of him dating someone that isn't from his lifestyle. After a few takes where they banter back and forth in between, they finally loosen up enough to give each other a steamy kiss that Josh thinks is good enough for his final cut. Afterwards, Gatsby goes to visit his brother Hunter, and he gets to see Hunter's fiancée Lily. After a nice meet and greet where Gatsby makes sure everyone knows not to tell his mother about him being there, Lily goes up to take a shower, and Hunter tells Gatsby that he can't go through with the wedding. Gatsby's desperate to know the reason behind this change of heart, but when he finds out, he can't believe it. It turns out that Hunter's so turned off by Lily's laugh that he's immediately turned off by it. He's so turned off that he can't even get it up in bed with her. Remember how I said I kind of want to see the hiccup fit that Ashley has? Well, I'm adding this to the list. I have to hear Lily's laugh now. Meanwhile, Ashley's sitting and watching the viewing of his new film with Roland and his writer Ted. Roland is so disappointed in his film that he has to walk out and start drinking. But when Ted tells Ashley that she doesn't have to stay and watch it, she mentions that she's actually enjoying the film. Ted has the controller rewind the film a bit, and they continue watching it. Back at Hunter's apartment, the brothers are waiting for Lily to come down so Gatsby can witness her infamous boner-killing laugh.
Force yourself.
Well, I can now cross that off my movie bucket list on this one. I definitely wasn't expecting that laugh to come out of her, but I don't know about it being a boner killer. Tell me what you think about that laugh in the comments. As Gatsby leaves, he takes one of Hunter's umbrellas, but before he gets down the stairs, he gets a call from Ashley. When he tells her about the plans for the rest of the day, she tells him that she won't be able to make it because she has to find Roland and convince him that the movie's actually pretty good. Gatsby doesn't care about all that though. He thinks that she's getting too close with Roland, and he isn't a fan of how much she's putting him off to pursue this chance with Roland. After they hang up, Ted and Ashley find out that Roland has drunkenly taken himself to the studio in Queens. As they drive in that direction, Ted spots his wife walking into the apartment of his best friend, and he finds out that she's having an affair. Ashley decides to stick with him to help him through this difficult time. There comes a time when professional courtesy has to stop, but she really does seem too gone to really notice anything that's going on. She's living her dream and nothing else matters. Meanwhile, Gatsby gets a cab, but Chan pops in on the other side at the exact same time. As they ride together, she realizes that Gatsby really does love Ashley, and she hopes that he talks to her soon to get her priorities straight. The more they talk, the more she begins to think that something funny's going on Ashley's end. After talking with Chan, Gatsby decides to call Ashley, but she simply tells him that she's caught up right now and she hangs up on him. In Ted's car, he begins to ask her about Gatsby, and Ashley can't really describe him in the right fashion. She describes him as an unfocused genius, but she attributes a lot of his negativity to his relationship with his mother. Then she finishes the conversation by saying she thinks he has Asperger's. Well, this is a rather pleasant conversation. I'm pretty sure that's more information than Ted was looking to find out. Shortly after, Chan and Gatsby get out of the taxi, and they decide to continue keeping each other company. They head up to Chan's apartment so she can change, and Gatsby sits down and plays piano. Who just walks into someone's house and sits to play piano and sing? It was almost like watching a musical, and the character realized it was time for a musical number so they just pop a squat and start. Once he finishes playing, they talk about their own versions of the perfect romance, and they differ in the final point of whether it's a happy ending or a realistic ending. In Gatsby's version, the one that's going to meet the other finds another and chooses them instead. In Chan's version, everything plays out exactly how it's supposed to. Across town, we see Ted's wife Connie come out of his best friend's apartment. As he runs over to confront her, she swears that they were going to tell him, but that's what they all say. Ashley rushes over and introduces herself as a reporter, and she begins to take notes on everything that's said. Eventually, Ted doesn't like how Connie tries to pull Ashley into all their drama, and he gives her the address to the studio so she can take a taxi and find Roland. Back with Chan and Gatsby, they arrive at the art museum, and they walk around while they try to find out more about each other. After Gatsby admits to having no game plan for the future, Chan admits that she used to have a crush on him when he dated her sister. She even tells him about how her sister talked about the time they made love in the park.
Would you about that?
Every moist detail.
Well, now I'm embarrassed.
Don't be. That night she gave you a 6.
Gatsby's expression says it all here. Even he isn't sure why this is what they're talking about. But the two of them are a better awkward couple than Ashley. Ashley's that aloof character that always means well, but Chan is the sarcastic realism that'll hit you with the truth and you won't even know what happened. Gatsby spots some of his family while walking around, and he tries to hide from them. While he hides, Ashley calls, but now Gatsby's the one that can't really talk. He ends up running into his family and they call his mother as they all leave the art museum. Ashley, on the other hand, makes it to the studio, but once there, she doesn't find Roland. She finds Francisco Vega, a celebrity hottie that she thinks is sent from heaven. The two of them make it into his trailer where Francisco invites her to dinner and a party, and Ashley isn't quite sure if that's a good idea.
Oh, gosh.
Well, it's not as satisfying as the laugh was earlier, but at least I got to hear everything I wanted to. Back in town, Gatsby tells Chan about how he's dreading having to go to his mother's that evening, and Chan tries to tell him that he could always move out and do things on his own. He finds the idea of renouncing the family money a little absurd, but she's serious. Across town, Francisco and Ashley leave his trailer to go out and eat, and the paparazzi have a field day with Ashley accompanying him. After they get to dinner, they connect, and Francisco just comes out and asks if she has a boyfriend. She doesn't actually tell him no, and he continues laying on the compliments. Eventually, she says that technically she has a boyfriend, but really she doesn't. She tries to describe Gatsby again, but this time her commentary on him isn't as elegant as it was before. Meanwhile, Gatsby goes to sit in on a high-stakes poker game, but his mind is all over the place with worry about Ashley. After a risky gamble, he heads back to the penthouse where he empties his pockets of all the money he just earned. He throws on the TV, and he sees the paparazzi surrounding Ashley and Francisco. That has to hit pretty hard on his mind. He's been worrying about her all day and planned out everything with her, and the first he hears from her in hours is on the TV with a famous actor? Congratulations, Ashley. Poor Gatsby. Gatsby takes himself to the piano bar where he drinks alone and contemplates everything that led him to love someone like that. He ends up catching the eye of Terry, who's sitting alone as well. When she comes over, she tells him that she makes dreams come true, and her profession becomes absurdly clear. She tells him that his rate is $500, but he offers her $5,000 to pretend to be Ashley at his mother's party. Meanwhile, Francisco takes Ashley to the party, and she ends up finding that everyone is at the party. As she wanders, she runs into Roland, Ted, and ends up with Francisco again. Roland offers to take her to the south of France with him. Ted spills his heart out that her words were all he thought about when he found out about Connie, and Francisco simply tells her that they should split from the party. She just got every choice in the world laid out in front of her. Which one would you pick? Gatsby takes Terry to his mother's party, and he tries to put on an act for everyone he runs into. Terry even plays a good Ashley considering she just got roped into this.
Trouble spots.
On the weather.
Oh god, I didn't think I was going to be able to hear that laugh ever again. That just made the movie. Francisco takes Ashley to his suite, and he asks what all the business with Roland and Ted was. She blows it all off, and she ends up talking to herself about her moral compass in the situation. She knows she has a boyfriend, but Francisco Vega is her dream. She goes ahead with having some adult time with him, but they're surprised when his actual girlfriend shows up. He tells her to hide in the other room, but she causes a stir. So she grabs a trench coat and makes it outside in the rain just in time. What she didn't plan on is Francisco's girlfriend locking the door. With no other options, Ashley goes down the fire escape and makes her way around New York in a trench coat. Over at Gatsby's mother's house, she confronts him about bringing a hooker to the party. When Gatsby explains that it was his attempt at a bad joke and rebelling against his appropriateness of her household and lifestyle, she wonders if it was really that bad for him growing up. When she tells him that he gets it from her, he doesn't believe her. So she tells her inappropriate story of how she met his father. She comes out and tells him that she was a hooker that came onto his father in a hotel. This is not how you tell your son that you were a hooker before you got married. Honestly, I don't know the right way to ever do that, but I'm pretty sure that this isn't the way. After Gatsby leaves the party, he heads for the piano bar that he was supposed to meet Ashley in, and he sits down to play. Seriously? Do people just see a piano and say, I gotta play that? Soon, Ashley finds her way in, and Gatsby tells her that he saw her on the TV. She promises that nothing happened, but Gatsby just doesn't believe her. She tells him that she's too drunk, too high, and too tired to explain anything. The next morning, Ashley tells Gatsby the whole story, and he seems surprisingly calm about everything. Before they leave town, they take the carriage ride that Ashley had hoped for, and Gatsby realizes that she just isn't the one for him. He gives her money and sends her on her way. After that, Gatsby heads to the station where it's begun to rain, and he seems to be waiting for something. As the clock chimes on the hour, Chan walks up from under the tunnel. As they kiss in the rain, the credits roll. The awkwardness of the dialogue and situations made this an enjoyable, slow rom-com. It's also a Woody Allen film, so you know it's good, and you have a good idea of what you're getting into. This is another one that I'll say if this is your style of movie, you definitely have to watch it. It's a nice title to add to your collection. Thank you for watching, and I hope you enjoyed the video. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more like this one. Comment what you think I should watch next, and I'll see you in the next video.